Hey, what's up, everybody? The Villain Club here, coming back at you with another. It's about anything and everything, and nothing's off the table. It's about common sense. Alright, so you can find me on YouTube and on Rumble, whichever is of your preference. So you can subscribe to me on YouTube or follow me on Rumble. Rumble, I guess, in a sense, is a little bit better in terms of letting you free flow with the content creation and censorship and all that. You don't have to worry about as much as YouTube. And so without further ado, let's just get to it. All right. uh Protests still happening. All right, with the whole Trump thing and Elon Musk and all that, vandals violating Teslas, right? And it's funny because this is exactly the message I've been sending right here. Vehicle vandals are not benefiting their cause. All right. I mean, it's true. They're not. All right. So let's take a look at this. Because the reason why is a couple things, right? The vandals are going after cars that are supposed to be a benefit to everybody, right? Supposedly, the benefit to living in the world, right? Because there's no carbon emissions and green energy, right? All this bullshit that the progressives and liberals have been trying to spew and enforce upon us, forcibly by 2035 bullshit, right? And especially in California, they're pushing that shit hard, right? So you look at it like that, but yet they're going to torch it, which causes worse problems than a typical car fire. So, it's just funny how things are. Let's take a look at this.
Joining us now to talk more is the owner of a Tesla that has been vandalized, Sean Freed. Sean, great to see you today. Thanks for being with us. Can you describe what happened to your Tesla? I mean, just what an awful feeling that must have been to discover.
Yeah. So it was last Sunday. My wife and my mother-in-law were headed downtown to see a show at the local theater. They parked on the street parking. And as they walked towards the theater, they noticed that there were protesters outside the theater. And then about 30 minutes after the show had started, we got video from the Tesla of this individual walking down the street, presumably after the...
That's another thing, because how do they support Nazis if Elon is not even, a German Nazi when you think about it, right? Blonde hair, blue eyes, supposed to be the perfect race, right? Of, white people and all that. And Elon's not even white. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at Republicans, that's supposedly the white race, right? When they are full of diverse people, right? Of cultures and all that. But yet they're Nazis, right? And Trump is Hitler and all this other stuff that they try to accuse him being during campaign season. And it's like, yeah, Trump is Hitler, but yet everyone else around him is diverse, right? And he's doing things for America, right? So that doesn't make any sense here, but let's take a look at this.
Protest.
Fucking
and
dick.
They wrote on the car, you could see the message, "This car supports Nazis." And so then my wife and my mother-in-law came back from the theater to find that on our car.
And what did that feel like emotionally when you saw that there and that accusatory statement that was written on your vehicle?
Yeah, I'll be honest. At first, when I saw it, my first reaction was like, "Oh, this is going to be a big hassle. Now I have damage in my car." But then as I thought about it, I thought, what if my family had been there when this person walked by? And would there have been a confrontation? Would my family have been safe? So it definitely is concerning.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
And you know why he says that? Because these Democrat, liberal, progressives, right, they're violent people. And they might act on violence if they see just regular people that own Teslas happen to be at the car or be around it, and they might violently react, almost like in road rage or something. Who knows? We won't know, right? And luckily his family wasn't there. Luckily he wasn't there, because who knows how the individual would have reacted, standing next to a Tesla there.
Mm-hmm. President Trump is labeling the attacks as domestic terrorism. Is that what?
Damn right.
Is that what you would describe this? Is that what you would describe what happened to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I find it in a gray area because it's definitely vandalism. Does is
It is
hate
domestic
speech because
terrorism
it
because they're all being
identifies,
targeted.
Nazis. I'm not. It's not up to me to judge whether that's terrorism or not.
All right, let's
It
take
is
a listen to what
terrorism
some
because they're being
lawmakers and
targeted.
protesters are
Come
saying.
on.
Here we go.
I'm hearing disgust with an administration that relies on Elon Musk to slash and trash our democracy.
What's happening here is that U.S. citizens are exercising their free speech in a peaceful way to protest what's happening with Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the undermining of our democracy,
Do
the cutting
you
of
see what's
services,
going
the
on?
cutting of foreign aid, the cutting of free speech.
Do you see what's going on?
Judges.
Yeah,
Just
so
quick.
someone could write on someone's car and it's free speech. Get the fuck out of here.
Sweeping change that we've had here. How do you feel
Fuck
about
outta
Musk's
here.
actions since he's started radically shrinking the government and cutting spending? And how are you able to separate that from the company and from the founder?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what I would say is I support people protesting. I stand by your right of free speech to do peaceful protests, but I think that right ends when you start to damage other people's personal property, and that's when it.
When you cross the line to damage things, to blow up stuff, to break windows, to hurt other people, to do all these things that you're supposedly are supposed to be peaceful, but you're not doing, is that crosses the line, and that's why these type of protesters should get penalized for their actions, and they should be arrested if they cross that line.
Becomes
Because that's fine if you want to have free speech, you can say whatever you want, but to really cross the line like that, nah, I think you should be hemmed up.
inappropriate, and I don't think that they're actually benefiting their cause by doing that.
How do you feel about average Americans being taken into the political discourse with all of this? I mean, you bought this Tesla, I presume, before all of this started happening, or at least I know a lot of Americans have, and all of a sudden you're branded as somebody that thinks a certain way, and maybe you don't.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. As you mentioned, I bought this Tesla 4 years ago, and I bought it because I'm an engineer and I like technology, and it's a cool car, not because I was trying to make any sort of political statement whatsoever.
Yeah,
and
come
now
on. You guys are a
I'm
bunch of
forced
clowns,
into
man.
this situation
People
out
are
of my own
clowns.
will.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't, it's hard to keep up with because the headlines just come out so fast and furious and people get so wound up about everything on, it's hard to figure out what color you're allowed to wear, what shoes you're allowed to wear, what car you're allowed to drive because this country is so divided. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that that happened to you. Sean Freed, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story, though.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Oh, and meanwhile, all right, meanwhile, take a look at this here. Oh, that's not it. Where's it at? Damn it, where did I put it at? Oh, this is the border bill. That's not what I was looking for. Let me see if I can find it. Ah, here we go. Found it. So, if you haven't known already, it's already been put out there, talked about. And here it is, all right? This is a quick little preview of what this is. Little trailer. Hopefully this is okay to share. This is just try to share with you. No sound. Alright. You can see what it is. Alright, you see it now. It should be fair use. I'm assuming it's fair use, right? You're just sharing an advertisement of a movie. Alright, you guys know what it is, right? Snow White. Alright, enough of that. Alright, so you guys know what it is. So, Snow White had a mediocre opening day at the box office amid ongoing controversy surrounding the film. This is a live-action remake with Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. It took $16 million on Friday, and preview screenings from 4,200 venues across the U.S. And they figure that the projected opening weekend is $45 million. We'll know by tomorrow, or I guess by today, actually, I'm sorry, by today. And so they say that Snow White has a steep climb ahead as it has production costs of more than $250 million. How can you spend $250 million to make a live-action Snow White movie, right? And in comparison, Little Mermaid, which came out a couple years ago, had a similar budget, which is, I can understand Little Mermaid because of the fact that, you know, it's a water thing, but at the same time, it's like, man, you spend that much money just for some like fairy tale remake, you know, of live action. By the way, they recasted the main character, so instead of like Ariel, you know, the redhead white girl that was in stories, they casted like a black female. Here they casted, instead of Snow White, it's supposed to be, you know, if you know the story, right? Beauty of pure skin that is Snow White or something like that, white skin, whatever, right? You get what I'm saying? Was recasted as a Colombian actress, or Colombian descent actress, Rachel Ziegler, which is kind of odd. So that already takes away the name Snow White, because she's no longer Snow White if she's Colombian, right? And then, you know, early test screenings show that the 7 dwarves, right? Because it's supposed to be Snow White and the 7 dwarves, right? You know, they recasted them as 7 different individuals, right? And so it was like early photos and screenings showed like 7 different types of people, right? Let me see if I can find something here on that. Let me see here. Snow White. Early test screening. On dwarves replacement, right? Let's see here. I know it's kind of a... So it's supposed to be originally 7 dwarves, right? Snow White and 7 dwarves, right? So they recasted them as these guys here, as magical creatures, right? So this is what the original idea was, to have 7. So Snow White and the magical creatures, right? So yeah, these guys here. Let's take a look at these pictures. Oh shit. So this is what they look like, right? You actually have one dwarf in there, but he was just one of the creatures. So yeah, you know, look at this, right? So this was the original cast, and when they went through test screenings, they it was bad. It was real bad. People heavily criticized the replacements of 7 dwarves with 7 magical creatures, right? So they went through the editing process and decided, okay, we'll put back the dwarves, but rather than have real dwarves, right, like, you know, real dwarves, they put in CGI dwarves. So already insulting the, you know, what do you call, I don't want to call them, well, they're dwarves, right, I guess, in real life. So insulting the dwarf community, right, because they're real people, when you could have just casted dwarves, like real life people, right? Little people. I think if you want to be politically right, they're called little people, right? So instead of casting real little people, they, you know, did this whole magical creatures thing because they thought they were going to be politically correct in respecting little people, right? But instead, it was a slap in the face, because now you're replacing little people with people, and it was like, you know, so one, you change the story again because yeah, Snow White, who's no longer white, some Colombian descent. Then you have dwarves that are no longer dwarves. They're magical creatures of different people. So you're slapping the face again in the community of the little people. So it changes the whole story, the context of the whole thing. Like, what's the purpose of even having Snow White and the 7 dwarves if you completely change the whole cast, right? And then they try to, you know, fix it supposedly by putting in CGI dwarves, which was yet a slap in the face of the little people community again, because now you had to use fake CGI instead of just having real dwarves or real little people. So all that negative publicity, talk, chatter, the early test screenings, Disney are a bunch of dummies, all right, for just really dropping the ball on this one, and trying to be woke, and they were way too woke, and they've gone way too far left woke, all right, for their own good in terms of what they do, what they've done to change classic stories. You look at Marvel, like they've pretty much replaced major Marvel characters that were male to females now. I mean, the list goes on. Star Wars series, all the different stories that have, lead females now, and it just completely takes the air out of the room with all these things that Disney does to supposedly, empower wokeness, right? Among things that, Disney already does in general with bullshit. Like, there was a time, they talked about how at one of the Disneylands, they're so woke that there was a guy, I mean, if you're trying to present an image to little kids, but yet you're being woke, right? You're a guy wearing a beard, you're a guy with a beard, and you dress like a female. I mean, how does that look, right? Like you're trying to encourage little girls that's trying to go there to buy a princess dress and grow a beard. I mean, come on now. Let me see if I can find pictures of that. Pictures of a guy, a beard guy, wearing princess dress. Yeah, there it is. It wasn't a beard, it was a mustache. I mean, like, what kind of shit is that? Look at this. It's one thing, I guess, if you're playing, but to work and to really look like this, it's not a good look, right? Like, it's just not a good look. Like, why? So little kids are going around, they want to buy a dress and everything, but yet you look like that? I mean, what is that shit? See, Disney employs man in dress at a children's dress shop. Like, really? Come on now, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they're far too woke, and that's why they're going to just destroy themselves eventually with their high ticket prices and all this woke bullshit they're doing, destroying classic stories, classic comics, right? And in essence, it's going to destroy movies, and it's going to bite them in the ass in the end, right? Like they talked about how the Captain America movie, the new one, has far, is far below expectations of what they thought it would have made, and I think, and I hate to say it, but it's because you have, I mean, I'm not trying to do a whole race thing, but it's, people know who Captain America is, right? And to cast now a black Captain America, I mean, was that the right move to go? I mean, and it's nothing with the whole race thing, but people know classic stories, and classic stories that Captain America wasn't black. And I know that they can just justify with multiverse and all this other stuff, but at the same time, is that the right move, in the comics, Bucky, which is Captain America's best friend, even in the movies, right? The Winter Soldier became Captain America, right? Captain Marvel was a male in the comics. But how can you have Captain Marvel in the comics, or now in the movie, become female. And then in the comics, they had Miss Marvel, which was the equivalent to Captain Marvel in the comics. But yet, how would you address Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel if that was ever to happen in the movies, right? Which they probably wouldn't do, but you get what I'm saying. Might as well have Tinkerbell be a guy, right? And just be like a twink, right? Might as well have Tinkerbell like this right here, just be a twink. You know, if you really want to buck, you know, the trends of doing all this bullshit you're doing with Disney, have a twink be Tinkerbell, right? You know, those gay boy twinks. And then, perfect, right? But they don't do anything to empower the guys, right? It's all about empowering, you know, this, whatever it is they're doing here, you know? But anyhow, yeah, so this whole Disney thing was a flop. So they said that Captain America, Brave New World, yeah, I don't think it's a flop, but it's below expectations. Some people might call it a flop. I don't know. Reviews have been mixed, right? They said the only other worst opening and probably biggest flop of the year is Robert De Niro's movie called The Alto Nights, which I never even heard of. But it says here he's playing two identical gang leaders. And when I saw the picture of this, and I'm just like, yeah, I can see why it bombed. You know what I'm saying? And so, but everything with the whole Snow White thing, so besides the casting, the filming, replacement characters and all that, the comments and publicity tour of what Ziegler was doing didn't do her any favors as well, you know, and this is all bad, you know, it's just all bad. And so with that, you know, that's why it flopped, and I have zero interest. I never watched the Little Mermaid live action. I have zero interest in watching the Snow White live action. It doesn't look interesting at all. Right? And how can you have someone that's Snow White, that's pure skin of snow, of white, whatever, be tanned? I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something that they can see that I can't see. I don't know. But yeah, so that's what happened, transpired. And I guess we'll just top it off with this right here. All right, which is, you know, as you know, we're talking about woke and you know, everything else is woke with the whole Tesla thing and Snow White thing. Let's talk about Gavin Newsom and how, and it says here, Carl DeMaio, he's a Republican out of San Diego. He warns that MediCAL is insolvent because of illegal immigrants, which is true. I mean, we've talked about this before too, is that California funds everything to illegals, even including medical insurance. Like, we're paying for their medical insurance. Think about that, people. We are paying for their full ride and everything. And how can that be right?
Right on time.
And then we have a budget
Joining us
shortfall.
now is California State Assemblyman Carl DeMaio.
And we're in a budget shortfall, right? And I don't even think they even balanced the budget. I could be wrong, or they might have. But they did so with a series of bonds and all that bullshit. And now Gavin Newsom just recently asked to borrow an additional like $3 to $4 billion to help fund MediCAL. But when you look at why, because he doesn't say, it's because of illegal immigrants, because we're fully paying for their whole insurance of being here in California.
Assemblyman, it's great to see you. He should never have expanded it. California is the only state in the union that offers state Medicaid to all illegal migrants
Right.
in the state. And California's also cooked up a way to launder money and siphon Medicaid dollars from the federal government and all taxpayers. It should stop.
And so, yeah, and that's the thing about it, that Gavin Newsom straight up relying on the federal government to fund MediCAL in California, which is their Medicaid, right? And when Trump is threatening to cut that off, right, then California, especially Gavin Newsom, is accusing Trump of, oh, you're cutting off our medical coverage, right? But he's trying to cut off for the purpose of illegals, and that he's trying to leave it up to state to provide funding the right way for people that's supposed to have MediCAL insurance, right? And not rely on federal to pay for California's MediCAL, you know? So it's kind of strange, but at the same time, it's sneaky.
I totally agree. Every way you look at this crazy policy, it's offensive, it's reckless, and it really endangers the health security for the neediest among us. A year ago, Gavin Newsom said, brilliant idea, let's give illegal immigrants free health care for life. And that's really what this is, because once people are in the MediCAL system, there's not a real big incentive for them to graduate off of it because, you know, they would not be eligible anymore. He said it would only be $6 billion. We now find it's $10 billion and counting. The $8.5 billion number is just part of the cost, $10 billion and counting. My constituents in my district, if they want the bronze plan under Obamacare, for a family of four, that's $16,000 a year. Illegal immigrants get it free. So the first thing that's wrong about this policy is it incentivizes illegal immigration by providing a carrot to attract illegal immigrants into this country. Second of all,
and Obamacare is terrible too, and that's another story to talk about another day. That Obamacare, it's terrible. All right.
We were lied to when the governor said it would be reimbursed by the federal government. It's not. It's hitting the general fund. Now, 1 out of 4 MediCAL dollars is being handed to an illegal immigrant in our general fund. Finally, last week, Governor Newsom admitted that MediCAL is out of money. It is broke. It is insolvent. They can't pay hospitals, doctors, nurses, and healthcare providers, which means giving.
Yeah, so you know what that means? You better start finding ways to make some cuts, like cut that high-speed rail, cut the homeless. You better find some ways if you want to pay MediCAL.
Giving free health care to illegal immigrants puts the health insurance security for the neediest among us at risk. Children, seniors, others that cannot afford it are being threatened with their health coverage because we gave away the store to illegal immigrants. It needs to stop. Governor Newsom's MediCAL system should be audited by the Trump administration immediately, and we need to have accountability.
It's illegal.
Newsom
it is
needs to go.
illegal for federal Medicaid dollars to cover illegal migrants. It is against the law, and he's cooked up a way to do it. Go ahead.
You know, Carl.
And when Trump threatens to cut that off, then they blame Trump, say, "Oh, you're cutting our insurance, you're cutting our MediCAL." What the fuck? You know, it's like, what the fuck? Right.
Well, as you were just running through that list, and I think it was an important one for people to hear, it kept striking me as you went down and ticked off each bullet point. Every single one of those was not just predictable, it was predicted by opponents like yourself, like Republicans in California saying, if we do this, here are the things that are going to happen. And Newsom and his cronies all said, nope, it's going to be fine. And now there's this gigantic gaping hole in the budget again. What are they going to try to do to close that hole? What's the plan? Let me guess. More taxes?
Oh, yes. They want to raise taxes. They want to cut services to citizens.
Yeah.
But mind you, when I was...
That's the thing. Every time Democrats overspend, which they always do, what do? They'll just raise the taxes and make us pay even more to continue to pay for their overspending, right?
Was sworn into the legislature, and I've only been on the job for 8 weeks. I announced right out of the gate we're going to Doge California, and one of the first things we did was we went after the spending on these goodies for illegal immigrants. I started asking questions at the budget committee, And we dragged this out of the governor's budget director on live TV. And as a result, I was removed the next week from the budget committee. The Democrats don't like us asking questions. They don't want us shining a light on their wasteful spending. And they're trying to literally sweep this under the rug.
Wow.
The reality is now they're blaming President Trump for MediCAL's problems. They did a press release this week saying Trump is to blame. No, California Democrats are the only politicians in this country right now that have put a Medicaid program, MediCAL, on the brink of financial insolvency, and they're trying to shift the blame to President Trump instead. They caused the problem. They need to be held accountable.
Amen. Assemblyman Carl DeMaio,
so
thank you so much.
I want to buy your house.
I'll leave it at this, too. Fuck Rob Bonta, all right? Fuck Ro Khanna. Fuck Adam Schiff. Gavin Newsom, right? All these high-level politicians in California that don't do jack shit but cause problems for our living in California. And we got to continue to pay for their bullshit. All right, so just saying. All right, so that's why I just wanted to leave it at today. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. I mean, everything I speak about is true and it's common sense, right? They got some problems here and they're feeding it to illegal immigrants. Come on now, really? All right, so we have bigger fish to fry. We have other problems to worry about, and you want to just give them everything, right? It doesn't make any sense. And then, again, we talked about the Snow White flop and why. And then, of course, Tesla's, the idiots that keep vandalizing Teslas and all that stuff is not really doing any favors to their cause, right? It just makes them look bad. So anyhow, subscribe, hit the bell icon, or follow me on Rumble, YouTube or Rumble. All right, and let me know what you think. Thank you. I'll see you next one.